Thank you for staying with us. Now, reactions are still trailing the announcement of a proposed tariff hike expected to have taken place from the 1st of July. Now, about 11 Nigerian electricity distribution companies have applied to the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, for a review of electricity tariff. The discos are demanding a 40% hike approval, citing losses from petrol prices that keep escalating, as well as fluctuating exchange rates, amongst other economic conditions. The 2023 report made by the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, however, states that between January 2020 and January 2023, tariff increased from 55% of cost recovery to 94%. They also mentioned that without the tariff reviews that commenced in 2019, subsidies payable by the government would have grown to about 1 trillion naira per annum by 2023. Well, joining us in the studio to discuss more is a professor of energy and electricity law from the University of Lagos, Professor Yemi Oke. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for
Good morning, Prof.
Good morning.
See you.
Now, the question on the lips of Nigerians, we just give a breakdown of how there has been a consistent increase in the percentage with regards to tariff hike. And Nigerians are wondering how justified it is that we keep getting these increases. Yes, they are talking about economic realities, policy changes, but then is this really justified from your point of view?
Okay, how do I start now? Because that's a very important question. I'm Nigerian like yourself, and I'm also affected like every Nigerian and Nigerian organizations and businesses. From my point of view, as industry specialist, it's not justifiable at this point in time. And there are reasons for that. One, there was an attempt to amend the Electric Power Sector Reforms Act, the Repeal Act. Then they changed the language, the terminology, saying tariff increase or tariff increment, and I kicked against it. I wrote, we can't be talking of tariff increment or tariff increase. By tariff methodologies, tariff could actually or either go northward, meaning up, or southward, coming down. So by the time you're saying increase, meaning at every point in time, tariff must go up. That's not the law. Go check the law today, Electricity Act of 2023. You will not see tariff increase or tariff increment. You see tariff adjustment. So when you talk of tariff adjustment, you modulate. When and if there are justifiable reasons, tariff may go northwards, up. If things are normal, tariffs may go southwards, meaning downwards. Consistently, we've seen an upward trend in tariff adjustment. That's not normal. And I ask the questions. What model of tariff are we implementing now? Because I'm not speaking for any of the discos. I'm on virtually all the platforms of electricity and energy persons who can talk of in the country and beyond. So I know them. These are conversations I've had with them privately and I've had with them publicly. And they know I know what I'm saying. And they can challenge me. There was a time I threatened even to go to court. And I said, oh, I don't want to go the way of activism in fixing this power sector.
Haven't we gotten to that point?
I don't want you to trigger the activism in me yet. Because even at some point, I threatened to go to court because I said NERC cannot be licensing entities generating electricity off-grid. Actually drew up a litigation. People said, no, Yemi, we can't talk about this. Continue pushing your advocacy so that we can have the law changed. The law has been changed. NERC ought not to have been licensing off-grid companies. Those should be by states. But we have that now. Now, I'm saying, when you talk of tariff will not necessarily go up. And I'm going to give you technical details. One, they were hoping for cost-reflective tariff, meaning the entirety of their cost of production, whatever, will be factored in agreeing the cost per unit of electricity that's generated. Nigerians are saying, oh, I was against that. How can you be putting your bogus cost to Nigerians? It's not justifiable. Expensive lifestyle of your directors and EDs and management staff riding 2-3 jeeps, paying humongous amount of money as salaries, which I know of. You now pass that as part of cost to Nigerians. That's not something a questionable human being like me can swallow. We don't even have a regulator. I have a serious problem with the regulators. And I'm on here. I'm not even hiding it. Do you have the impression that there's a regulator regulating for you as a Nigerian? We all know when NAFDAC was regulating for Nigerians, we could feed the Doraculis of this sort of blessed moment, regulating for Nigerians. That did not cripple pharmaceutical and drug businesses. Now it's thriving because we had an effective and efficient regulator championed by that woman of blessed moment. Today, Nigerians are happy, but things are happening now. So it's about effectiveness of regulation. And I said, we can't put all these bogus costs or justifiable costs to Nigerians. Then we modulated the language. We now say service-based tariff. Service-based tariff means you're going to bill me based on what I consume, right? And the question is, okay, how much of service hours am I having? How much am I paying? You know what they did? They created a kind of an appetite regime that no reasonable human being will allow to happen. In certain brown areas, you could have 24, 13, 20 hours of electricity because they just take money from them. We'll pay hundreds of thousands or millions of electricity bills. So they now supply electricity to those who can afford it. It now becomes a kind of ISB, that thing. And average, innocent, poor Nigerians are perpetually put in darkness because they cannot afford to pay for electricity. Who does that? Which country will prosper with that kind of annoying trend? These are issues we have in the power sector. We've been speaking. We are not tired of speaking. I'm sure somewhere along the line we're going to get it right. So they now say, oh, we're going to have service-based tariff. Issue of metering. Issue of efficiency. What are the components of electricity tariff? Because there's something we call tariff methodology. It's the mathematics of tariff. They will say, okay, let's recover our CAPEX, capital expenditure. Let's recover our OPEX, operating expenditure. A, T, C, and C losses, meaning aggregate technical, commercial losses, commercial losses, A, T, T, C, and C. They factor in all those humongous components and now agree a tariff. And this tariff are pre-agreed with the NERC, which we call NERC. And my question is this. As NERC, NERC, our regulator, ask questions about efficiency of generation or distribution. There was a time, because they're talking about cost of petrol. I'm going to address that briefly. I won't mention the name of the disco. We had a case against them in respect of a casualty, so we're trying to settle the matter. They requested for settlement talks. We went there. A disco in their office. They were running on generator. The disco was running on diesel in their head office. That's bad. That happened several years. Have we corrected that? No. So, and I'm not seeing the regulator asking relevant questions. Let me come bare to Nigerians, layman's language. What is the production cost of electricity you need to sell to Nigerians? How much does it cost? Are the GENCOs, because they are distributing what is generated by another entity or entities called GENCOs. Has GENCO increased their cost of generation? Okay. Mostly they use gas I'm trying to tone down my language so that I don't, I don't get technical so Nigerians can understand me. So they basically use gas as feedstock. You and I know that prices of gas is actually coming down.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's true.
Compressed natural gas, CNG, LNG, LPG, liquefied petroleum gas, cooking gas, and all forms of gas is actually coming down. Nobody's talking about efficiency of collection. I can tell you 30 to 35% of power that is generated is bypassed by Nigerians. I'm not here to justify meter bypass. There is gross inefficiency at the level of the discos. I know of collusion by some of the staff of discos. Entities that ought to be billed 5 million naira. Some of their boss will go and negotiate. They get billed 2 million naira. The Kabak collect 1 million naira, and the guy makes 2 million naira net. So he will keep doing that. And they will factor those into the ATC and C losses, which is their own inefficiency in collection. Amongst capital expenditure that is bogus, operating cost that is inefficient, that ought to have been put down. And they put all those and dump it on Nigerians.
As tariff.
As tariff. And we have a regulator that is not speaking up. How we need in the power sector is a regulator that understands the language and is ready to do the right thing. This is not the time for needless politicking, who voted for who won, who lost, Nigerians are not interested in who won or lost. Elections have come and gone. Electioneering processes have come and gone. They're sorting themselves out in court. An average Nigerian needs electricity to be able to live a decent life, to be able to run small-scale businesses, to run his or her barbing salon, hairdressing salon, organizer, tailoring. And we cannot go unless and until we fix that. No country grows without fixing that crucial sector. That's why Nigerians are saying, hey, okay, now that we have a president who on his own was the champion for decentralized electricity when he was governor of Lagos. Now he's there. Nigerians are saying the first test of the current administration is power. So he wanted to do it 1999, 2000, but he couldn't do it. Now he has the yam, he has the knife. If he can fix that, in fact, Nigerians will score a pass mark. It's crucial. It's affecting everybody. We cannot grow. Do you know how many banks run on diesel? Do you know it's part of the charges they charge you for transferring money? Those are their own service charges to run diesel. Telecoms, most booster stations, almost all, they run on diesel. And the costs are shifted to you and I as Nigerians, making calls, texting messages, using data. It's bad.
Wow.
It's depressingly bad and overwhelming.
What you're saying is sinking in gradually. And I believe that those who are watching at home will just put their hands like this and are listening. But let's even go back to the basics, to the foundation. We remember we used to have NEPA. And they say, okay, fine, we need to reorganize, decentralize, and so on. And then balkanize and sell, privatize, bring... Nigeria is expected from, especially when the government sold the idea of selling NEPA and then privatizing it. Nigerians had the notion that the companies that were coming in, would take it up and then the power or energy sector would become as prosperous as the telecommunications sector at that time. Now, we have seen how some of the companies that came in, even at the time, requested for bailout, to be assisted by government, and so on. Is that where the foundation of the challenge is? Because we expected that those guys were coming in with their technical capacity, their financial capacity, their network, and all of that, so that when they come in, they would have transformed the entire power sector. That was what Nigerians expected. Is that where the challenge really is, when it comes to capacity of those companies that took over the industry?
You are just opened a major can of worms.
Whoa.
I've said it times and times and I'm not tired of saying it so that Nigerians will know. The power sector privatization was reckless and wrongly packaged from inception. And we won. We won because even the tariff adjustment, they're still mentioning the issue of foreign exchange, which I'm going to mention. It was wrongly packaged, hurriedly packaged, fraudulently packaged. And it took the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, almost 7 years. The twilight of his administration, he now said on here that the power entities were bought and sold as a matter of political patronage, which was what we said. Nigeria did not make a dime from power sector privatization. Go and check. The money they realized they used to settle former staff of electricity, former electricity union. Fortunately, Joe Ajero now is the NERC president, who was the president of electricity workers union or whatever. So, at some point, I was a technical person to NLC. Each time they had a meeting with National Assembly or Joint Committee of Senate and House of Reps, they would call me. I'm a member of the academic staff union. ASU is affiliated. Anytime they want to go negotiate, they drag me. I say, oh yeah, come. So I was the one assisting. So I know everything about it. We got it wrong from inception. Money did not come in. The entities that bought those companies did not bring money from abroad. There was no foreign inflow of capital. They approached Nigerian banks. I've repeated this several times. They approached Nigerian banks for what is called acquisition financing. They need money to buy the entities in a hurry and put in their pocket, thinking they'll be able to collect enough money through all this tariff thing and existing liabilities of customers and consumers of the old NEPA and PSL. Things were not done properly. So Nigeria did not realize money. Some of the entities were actually, Yola was returned. So they approached Nigerian banks. And I said in your studio then and another studio, I said, with the expansion of the Nigerian banks to power sector lending, at least 5 banks will cave in. 3 gone, without mentioning names, largely because of the exposure to power sector. What happened? You are going to build Nigerians in Naira. They went and borrowed dollars. Dollar to Naira was 160 to 166 to a Naira when they were privatized, when they bought those entities. Now, Naira to dollar is 700 plus. So for them even to recover their money or be able to meet up with their liabilities and especially of lending or pay their debt, they will need to increase, not this nominal increment they're even talking about. This is just scratching the surface. They're in deep problem. They will need to increase as much as 600% if they want to really recover. And we want them. So that's not going to be realistic, because if that happens, Nigerians will just abandon electricity and be using diesel and petrol because it will be cheaper.
Oh, go back to candles. And
so that's a huge problem for them. Now, out of the discos, 90% of them, they are under receivership or a kind of administration. They are technically insolvent. 90% of the discos. One is under receivership, one is under, go check it out. So the discos are technically insolvent. They are owing a lot of Nigerian banks. No new investor is ready to come in. If I will go to come and invest in your country, I'm going to ask assistant players, ask market. Hope the market they do it. They have no good stories to tell, so nobody is encouraged to come and dump his money there because I'm not likely to invest, recoup your money with yield. So that the power sector is in deep challenges. Let's leave that. Now, how do we get out of it? We've advocated several things. We said The Nigerian government is sitting on about 40% stakes. First and foremost, NERC, the Nigerian Electricity Liability Company, they set it up to take over the liabilities of the old NEPA and PSN as a company. That shows we didn't make any money. So I now say, okay, NERC should be restructured as something like what we have in the Nigerian banks, NDIC.
NDIC.
NERC should not be an insurer of the power sector. We have MBET, Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading Company. That was a kind of stopgap to buy power and give to the discos so that the gencos will be able to make money, whether or not there is demand for it. That should become something like NNPC Limited, a going concern, buying stakes, running as a player in the sector. I had about 20 listed reforms critical reforms that could be done. One was just the law that has been enacted. Of course, it took almost 15 years plus when we were advocating this is bad, this is bad. Gladly we have a law, however imperfect as the law is. But something worries me, which Nigerians are not talking about. Under the old law, we have what is called PCAF. PCAF is Power Consumer Assistance Fund. Under the new law, we have PCAF under 122 and 123. What KPAS says is this. If you must increase tariff, there's a pool of funds to mitigate the hardship on poor Nigerians. And there's no money in PCAF as we speak. Because PCAF is something that some consumers and customers who contribute, the discos will also contribute. The federal government or state, they want to give palliative or subsidy will contribute. There's no money in PCAF. So when you increase, there ought to be a kind of indirect subsidies for poor Nigerians. That's not there. What they normally would do is to give electricity access to the rich who can afford and put innocent Nigerians in darkness, as against giving a kind of palliative for Nigerians. At this point in time, when we just had needful removal of petroleum subsidy, it will be one shock too many for Nigerians to have a major hike in electricity, because that affects everybody. You may say, oh, not all Nigerians have cars, fine, but electricity affects everybody. So there's a challenge there. We have a major problem when we talk of metering. There are so many issues in the power sector that if you stay here from now till next week, we'll still be
talking about it.
So it's much more complicated. We've written, documented, we've written tons and tons of books and articles all over. And it's not rocket science. If we are ready, we can fix it. If you're ready, we can.
Aren't we ready? Or?
Not only will you be ready to step on toes, you must be ready to kick some stomachs.
How do you mean?
For how so? We understand the federal government wants to import a lot massively now electricity meters. We have local manufacturers in the country.
And that's abnormal. It's extremely ridiculous. It's uncalled for. It's a misplacement of priorities. Who does that? One, I've seen, I'm not trying to market any entity. I will enter a factory called Momas on Lagos, and I saw the kind of things they do there in terms of meter manufacturing with high-tech, sophisticated meters.
In 30 seconds, yeah.
We have Nigerian meter manufacturers. All we need to do is to give them the kind of encouragement we are giving the Dangotes of this world.
Right.
They will do the needful, they supply meters. We're just not getting it right in the power sector. And I'm waiting. Nigerians are waiting. We need to take radical, bold, aggressive steps in the power sector so all of us will be out of this mess.
All right. There's so much to say with regards to the power sector, but unfortunately, time has done what it can again. Professor Yemi Oke, Professor of Energy and Electricity Law from the University of Lagos, we must thank you so much for that insightful conversation we just had.